I make my living around boats. I survey them. I crawl through them. I cut into the soft spots. I tell people whether the thing floating in front of them is worth the money or whether it's going to break their heart. And I'm about to spend the next 20 minutes trying to talk a few of you out of one, because the man who loves boats most is the one who'll tell you the truth about them. That's not a sales pitch. It's the opposite of one. So if you came here to be told yes, go buy the boat, you might want to click away now. I'd rather lose you for 2 minutes than have you lose $40,000 on a dream nobody warned you about. Here's who I'm talking to. If you're 60-something, and you've finally got the time, and you've finally got a little money set aside, and there's a picture in your head, the sun going down off the back deck, a cold drink, maybe the grandkids out on the tube behind you. I know that picture. I love that picture. But nobody sells you the other picture. The slip bill that shows up whether you went out or not. The haul out. The season it sat under a cover in the yard because your back wasn't having it that summer. That second picture is the one I get paid to see. And it's the one I'm going to show you today. And I'll tell you where the first picture comes from. Because it doesn't come from nowhere. There's a whole machine built to sell you the dream and stay very quiet about the bill. The dealer who shows you the boat on a perfect Saturday with the cushions just so. The brochure with the family laughing in the cockpit. The boat show music. None of those people make a dime off the haul out you'll be paying for in November. I'm not in that business. The only thing I sell is an honest look before the money changes hands. And after putting my hands on hundreds of these boats for buyers, I can tell you the same 5 things sink retirees more than any bad hull ever did. So stay with me. 5 reasons not to buy a boat after 60 from a man who genuinely loves them. And then, because I'm not here to rain on anyone, I'll turn it right around at the end and tell you exactly when it is still worth it and how to do it so you're the one who wins. I'm Sam Holloway. Let's get into it. Reason 1. The boat is the cheap part. I know how that sounds, because the number on the boat is the big number. That's the one you've been staring at on Marketplace. But that sticker is the down payment on your real cost, and the real cost is the part nobody puts on the listing. There's an old rule of thumb in this business, and I want to be careful and call it exactly what it is, a ballpark, not a law, but it's a useful one. Owning a boat tends to run you somewhere around 10% of the boat's value every single year, just to keep it. Buy a $30,000 boat and you're looking at roughly $3,000 a year before you've gone anywhere. That's slip fees or storage, that's insurance, that's the haul out and the winterizing, that's the engine service, the bottom paint, the little stuff that's never little. Now, is it exactly 10% for every boat? No. A small aluminum John boat on a trailer in your garage costs almost nothing to keep. A big fiberglass cruiser in a coastal slip can run you a lot more than 10. But the principle holds, and the principle is the thing the dealer never says out loud. You're not buying a boat. You're adopting an expense that shows up every year for as long as you own it. And let me show you one line item inside that 10% that catches more people than any other, because it's invisible until it bites the fuel. Most of the gas you pump now is E10, 10% ethanol. And ethanol and marine engines have a complicated relationship. Ethanol pulls moisture out of the air and holds it, and a boat that sits, which is most boats, most of the time gives that fuel weeks and months to draw water and go stale right there in the tank. That's phase separation, where the water and ethanol drop to the bottom of the tank, exactly where your fuel pickup is. The consequence is a motor that won't start in the spring, gummed carburetors, fouled injectors, a fuel system you're paying a mechanic to clean. It's the single most common thing I see: strand a perfectly good boat, and its avoidable fuel stabilizer, run the tank down before storage, keep it topped off, but nobody mentions it at the boat show. They mention it at the repair counter. And here's the fair nuance, because I want this to be honest. If you go in knowing that number, if you sit down and say, right, 3,000 or 4,000 a year, can I carry that comfortably on top of everything else, then the cost isn't a trap. It's just a fact you planned for. The retirees who get hurt are the ones who only ever did the math on the sticker. The ones who do it on the real number, year 1, they're fine. Reason 2, and this is the one that quietly does the most damage: where you keep it. A boat needs somewhere to live, And that somewhere has a price that has nothing to do with how often you use it. I'm going to give you ranges here rather than one number, because this swings enormously depending on where you keep it. A trailer in your own driveway is nearly free. Dry stack storage at a busy marina is a real monthly bill, and a wet slip on the water in a desirable spot can be one of the largest line items you've got. The trap isn't the price itself. The trap is that it's a fixed cost against a thing you use, realistically, a handful of times a season. Let me do the arithmetic that nobody does at the boat show. Say you're paying for a slip and storage, and over a season you get out on the water, honestly, 10 times. 12. Every one of those outings just got very expensive, because you paid for the whole year whether you went or not. In the trade, this is the number that turns a dream into a chore. You start feeling like you have to go out to justify the bill, and the day a boat becomes a should instead of a want, the joy starts leaking out of it. Now, the fairness beat, because there's a right answer hiding in here. The people who beat this are the people who keep the boat small enough to trailer, or who keep it somewhere cheap, or who go in with eyes open and decide the slip is worth it to them. That's a perfectly good decision if you make it on purpose. What gets people is sliding into the most expensive option without ever asking whether a trailer and a garage would have given them the same Saturdays for a fraction of the money. I'll give you a third reason, and this is the honest one. The one the brochure will never, ever show you, and I say it with respect because I'm headed there myself. The body. A boat is physical. There's no way around it. You're climbing on and off, often onto a dock that's higher or lower than the deck, sometimes with a swell rocking the whole thing under you. You're lifting coolers, batteries, gear, fuel cans, an anchor, and a wet road that weighs more than you'd think. You're kneeling on a hard deck to reach the bilge, reaching over the transom, bracing against a wake. Balance, grip, knees, shoulders, back. None of that gets easier in your late 60s and 70s, and I'd be lying to you if I pretended it did. I see it in the surveys, boats that are immaculate, barely 100 hours on the clock over 6 or 7 years, because the owner loved the idea, but the getting aboard and handling it part quietly became too much. Here's the consequence that nobody connects. A boat that's too physical for you doesn't just sit there costing you the slip fee. It costs you the regret of looking at it. And I'll be fair, because this cuts both ways, and I don't want to write anybody off. Plenty of people are stronger and steadier at 70 than folks half their age, and the right boat actually makes this a non-issue. A walk-through transom instead of a high freeboard you've got to vault. A pontoon with a wide flat deck and a gate you step through, not climb over. Bow and stern thrusters so you're not muscling the thing into a slip in a crosswind. The mistake isn't being 65. The mistake is buying the boat that fits the fantasy instead of the boat that fits the body you're actually in. Number 4, the time. And I had this one backwards for years myself, so let me own that. When I was younger, I genuinely believed the cost of a boat was money. I'd tell buyers, work out what you can spend and you're set. I was wrong, and the boats I survey taught me I was wrong. Because the real currency a boat eats isn't dollars. It's hours. Owning a boat properly is a part-time job you're not getting paid for. There's the flushing and the rinsing after every saltwater trip. There's the winterizing in the fall and the recommissioning in the spring. There's chasing the small problem before it becomes the big one, the weep at a fitting, the soft spot starting in a deck, the battery that won't hold. For the right person, that maintenance is half the pleasure. I know owners who'd genuinely rather be wrenching on the thing in the driveway than out on the water, and I take my hat off to them. But if you pictured retirement as more free time, and the boat quietly turns into a chore list that ties you to the dock every weekend, that's a real and common kind of regret. And it's got nothing to do with the boat being bad. It's the boat asking for a kind of time you didn't know you were signing up for. Which brings me to reason 5, and it's the money one nobody mentions at the moment of the handshake. Depreciation. A new boat, the day you take delivery, starts shedding value, and it sheds the most of it early. The first few years take the biggest bite a new boat can lose, a substantial chunk of what you paid in those opening seasons, the same way a new car does the moment it leaves the lot, and frankly, often steeper. I'm not going to throw a hard percentage at you and pretend it's gospel for every make, because it varies by brand and by how the market's moving. But the shape of it is dead reliable. The dream costs the most exactly when it's newest, and the buyer who pays full retail for a brand new boat at 62 is very often the one absorbing that first biggest drop on behalf of whoever buys it from him 3 years later for a song. And here's the cruel little twist on top. If you bought more boat than you can comfortably handle and you decide to sell, you're selling into that depreciation. You take the loss to get out of a mistake. That's the trap snapping shut. And I want to be straight with you about how I know this, because it's not a number I read off a chart, it's a number I watch happen. On a survey, part of my job is forming a fair opinion of what a boat is actually worth in its current condition, and I'll tell you, the gap between what an owner paid new and what his 3-year-old boat is genuinely worth on the water today is one of the most painful conversations in this line of work. Good people, who did nothing wrong except buy at full retail, sitting on a boat that's worth a fraction of their loan. That's not bad luck, it's the mechanism. The boat was always going to give up that value early, they just weren't told to expect it. Now the fairness beat, and this is genuinely good news, so lean in. Depreciation is only a wound if you're the one buying new. Turn it around, and it's the single best gift in the whole hobby. Let somebody else eat that first big drop. The smart retiree doesn't buy the brand new boat, he buys the 3 to 5-year-old version of that exact same boat from the fellow who's now learning everything I just told you. Same hull, same fun, often a third or more off the new price, and the cliff's already behind it. You let the depreciation work for you instead of against you. That one move, buying gently used instead of new, undoes most of the financial damage in this entire list. So let me pull all 5 together, because I've been hard on the boat for 20 minutes and that's not actually how I feel. The boat is the cheap part. Where you keep it can quietly become your biggest bill. It's physical in a way the brochure hides. It eats hours, not just dollars, and it loses the most value right when it's newest. Every one of those is real, and I've watched every one of them turn a man's dream into a chore he resents. You've heard the old line, the 2 happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day he buys it and the day he sells it. I'll be honest with you about that one, because it's funny, and it gets repeated to death, and it is not the whole truth. It's only true for the man who bought wrong. The man who matched the boat to his body, his time, and his budget, and bought it used and sensible, he doesn't have a happiest day I sold it. He's still out there. I survey for that man too, and he's a joy to deal with, because his boat tells the story before he opens his mouth. Here's where I turn it around, because I'm not anti-boat, I'd be a fraud if I were. There absolutely is a version of this that's worth every penny, and let me tell you who wins. You win if you do the real math first, the 10% of your ballpark, not the sticker. You win if you keep it small enough to trailer, or you choose the slip on purpose knowing the cost. You win if you buy the boat that fits the body, you've got the easy step aboard, the wide deck, the thrusters. You win if the maintenance sounds like a pleasure to you and not a sentence. And you win, most of all, if you buy gently used instead of new, and let the other fellow take the depreciation hit. Do those things, and a boat in your 60s isn't a money pit. It's some of the best years you'll have. The water doesn't care how old you are. And before you buy anything new, used, from a dealer, off marketplace, doesn't matter, have it independently surveyed and inspected first. I know I would say that. But the surveyor who trained me, an old yard hand named Walter Quill, used to tell me something I've never forgotten. He said the cheapest boat you'll ever own is the one a good inspection talked you out of. He was right. A few $100s on a survey has saved buyers I've worked for tens of thousands. And once or twice it saved a man from a boat that would have left him sitting in the driveway, broke and heartbroken, looking at a hole in the water. That's the boat you walk away from. That's the one I'm trying to keep you out of today. So no, this wasn't me telling you not to buy a boat. It was me telling you to buy the right one, the right way, with your eyes open so the day you buy it isn't the start of a regret, but the start of the best Saturdays you've got left. If this saved you from one expensive mistake, do me a favor and hit like. It genuinely helps the channel reach the next fella about to overpay. And tell me down in the comments if you've owned a boat in your 60s. Was it the joy you hoped for, or the chore you didn't see coming? The old salts in here will set the record straight either way. Buy smart, stay afloat. I'm Sam Holloway. I'll see you back at the dock.